Welcome back. Franchising Stronger Together. I'm your host, Red Boswell, president of IFPG, the International Franchise Professionals Group. We're joined today by good friend Ron Bender. Ron is VP of Franchising for Envirologik. Ron, thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be here, Red. Thanks again.
And this is 2.0 for us because the wonderful folks at Zoom would not help me fix whatever the recording we did a month ago. So we get to hear from Ron, or at least I get to talk to my buddy Ron again today. Thank you for joining, man.
Happy to do it.
So first, you are down in the beautiful Tampa area. How are you and the family holding up?
Well, everybody, thank God, is fine in my family. My kids are spread across the country, so we don't get to spend time with them. But my wife and I, and actually my mother-in-law is visiting, had kind of locked down with us here for the last couple of months. But the weather's great, and everybody's healthy. Thanks for asking.
Absolutely. Well, you've represented some great brands, and I'm excited to learn more about Envirologik and how you guys are actually, I'm not even going to say the word survive. You are thriving through this. Who is Envirologik first, to talk about the size and what you do?
Sure. Well, we're a 30-year-old brand founded here in Sarasota, Florida, back in 1991. And we started with a pretty amazing grease-eating bacteria. Okay, grease-eating bacteria. And it works with commercial kitchens and anybody who's got food service, and it's actually dripped down into a drain line, consumes the stuff that would normally clog the pipes, cause unsanitary backups, odors, and then even get through into the wastewater, pollute the environment. So from there, we started with distributors in America, and we started international franchising in the early 90s. We've got 56 franchises around the country, around the world, sorry. And the most successful of them was our UK franchisee. He actually bought the whole parent company here in Florida and sold his business, moved here, and that's why we're launching Envirologik as a franchise here. The other two main lines of business we've developed over the years, really incredible odor control. Everything from restrooms to drain lines to even outdoor dumpster areas and so forth. But probably the thing that's most timely and most impactful to our business lately is for about 11 years now, we've been using an EPA-registered product to do sanitizing and disinfecting. And that product is effective on the EPA registration list, effective against coronavirus and influenza and staph and strep and all these other germs and bacteria and viruses. And that's really driven our incredible growth here in the last 90 days.
Speaking of incredible growth, so I was on a consultant call yesterday, and a couple of consultants were really bragging on Envirologik, said it was a great brand to be presenting during this crisis and as we exit out of it. So I assume that means you're doing well. How are your franchisees being affected? And of course, how are you supporting and responding to that?
Sure. Well, what we've seen is a slowdown on the restaurant service side because many of the restaurants were closed for a while or were much slower because they were only doing takeout or delivery. So for the bacterial services, we were definitely slowed down. People went from monthly service to every 2 months and things like that. But the sanitizing service has really exploded, and we've been doing country clubs, restaurants, grocery stores, really all sorts of different environments. We sanitize vehicles, so anybody who's out there delivering or has service vehicles heading to homes or businesses, this is a way to make sure that they're keeping their employees and their customers safe. And what we've seen is a couple of additional products that we got into production, fogger cans, for instance, that you can just put into a vehicle or into a hotel room, things like that. Just press the button, 15 minutes of fog disinfects and sanitizes the whole vehicle or room. But we've been much more communicative with our franchisees. We've had many of these delightful Zoom meetings. We've done virtual happy hours on Fridays just to, not the business side, the happy hours have really been just to engage, keep our finger on the pulse, and keep the personal relationships growing. But lots and lots of additional resources, lots of understanding voices and faces on the phone and on the Zoom, that kind of thing.
Well, Ron, it's been around a year now that you've took over franchising and really launched franchising in the U.S. Properly for Envirologic. And I say launched. My hunch is it's been more like 3 or 4 or 5 months since you launched it.
Right.
You put together, they really seem to do it right and put together a strong foundation with your leadership and your wisdom to put the plan together. So you're a fairly emerging brand still in the U.S. So
Correct.
I don't expect you to have some big answer for this, but are you seeing opportunities for one franchisee gets an account that has potential for national reach, and then other franchisees jump on, and it's franchisee helping franchisee building the whole brand around great new, one franchisee getting a lead? Go ahead.
Uh, yes, but as a matter of fact, it's been more um, our business development director, who's been with us for 17 years. He's a absolute expert in the industry, and he actually came out of the restaurant industry, so he knows, um, our basic clientele. He knows them intimately well. So he has been doing a lot of the sales calls with the initial franchisees, and then we've been kind of facilitating those spreads around. We don't wait for the original franchisee to go, position that to other franchisees. We've been doing it for them. And our master franchise from the UK, who's now the owner, has terrific relationships with a bunch of big brands. So we're expecting to leverage those as soon as we have more franchisees on the ground.
Imagine it, the biggest problem you have is frustration that you don't have more Z's out there supporting, right? I mean, you got opportunity. Now,
Right.
how do you take advantage of that opportunity? And it's a good time to be emerging brand. I tell you, you won't be
Yeah.
there long. Um, Communicating, I know you've been communicating best practices certainly, and you've had those happy hours that we're all starting to experience more and more on the Zoom happy hour.
Right.
Any other insights you've seen or experienced through this? Maybe you didn't expect to experience, maybe just something that would put a smile on your face with your franchisees, or maybe even with the candidates that you're talking to.
Sure, I'll give you a couple because we've really had some really terrific things going on. First of all, we are actually getting more candidates now than we have before, thanks to IFPG. And by the way, we are IFPG. Uh, Thanks to IFPG and some of the uh, candidates that we've been signing that have been talking to other people, we've been getting a tremendous amount of new candidates. And we've done virtual discovery days. Matter of fact, had one about 10 days ago, which went really, really well. Hopefully we'll have a few people moving forward through that. But this is the big smile causer has been that people are saying not only are they excited about the opportunity to offer a top quality sanitizing service. There's a lot of people out there that have just picked up sanitizing sprays from who knows where, and they're promoting that they are providing sanitizing services. But we've had 11 years of global experience with this. One of our international franchisees actually does the entire Emirates aircraft fleet, and we've got some really good success stories there. But these folks are also excited about being able to give back to the community, being able to help their neighbors stay safe, being able to help their local businesses reopen and increase customer confidence so that they're not only open, but they're actually able to do good business. And that's been just absolutely exciting for us all.
That is good news. What trends on the pipeline? So we're talking FranDev now. Have you
Sure.
seen a trend? If you go back to January, February, March, April, and now we're into May. Uh, Most folks I'm talking to saw the typical January, February. Then they saw March kind of take a little bit of a dive, and then April was a little bit of unknown, starting to go up, and we're starting for the most part to see a nice kind of hockey stick on lead flow of new
Right.
candidates. What about you?
Well, January and February were a bit slow, certainly as they normally are. We had certainly a higher percentage of organic leads at that time. And the organic leads, most of them were kind of interested, but really not ready to move forward. They were actually slowing down through the process over the March, April timeframe. But in March and certainly April and May, we've actually had a big increase in the candidates coming in from the consultants. So those folks are actually moving faster than the norm. And instead of a 6-week standard process. I'm on a 4-week roll right now where people are just accelerating. They're reaching out to franchisees. They're talking to people that they know who might be in healthcare or might be in the hospitality industry or so forth. And it's actually getting them excited and helping them to move along faster.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think part of it is, this is one of those opportunities to strike while the iron is hot. If I'm operating a business now and I want to reopen, I better get my sanitizing service in line, or I'm not going to be able to reopen. And if you're the one offering that sanitizing service, but you're not going to do it for 60 days, you're not going to get the business. They're going to have to go somewhere else. So I think part of it is the knowledge that they would like to be early adopters on offering that service. But other than that, I'm not 100% sure.
Have you noticed I've heard some trends in financial strength is a little better and risk tolerance is a little lower of the candidates that are entering the process during a crisis?
Sure. I think there, we've got some great financing vendors, some really great financing programs. And most often the candidates are saying, yeah, I don't need that. I'm okay. And they've got basically cash to invest. So I definitely agree with you on the financial strength. As far as the risk tolerance, I think, the words that are being touted out there are recession resistant, but the one that's even more impactful would be essential business. And because we produce these chemicals, and package and ship right here from Florida. So being a provider of essential services with the sanitizing services, folks are much more excited about that. And nobody's been questioning, oh my gosh, are we going to be able to live through this recession? Recession hasn't really impacted us.
So speaking of talking your candidates, what's your all-in investment range? What's that item 7 look like for you?
Anywhere from 110,000 up to about 265.
Okay, so right there in the sweet spot of franchising, that's a very common investment range, maybe a
Correct.
little bit lower than average, but good to note. So you've got some candidates with some cash. I couldn't recall if you were a 50,000 or a 150 or 550. So right in there in that 150, 200 range, typically. Great. Ron, you're always a pleasure. You bring a smile to so many folks' eyes. I got to ask, are you wearing shorts today? You wear shorts every day. You're a shorts man.
And flip-flops.
Of course. I wouldn't recognize you.
I'm wearing gloves on my feet just to make sure that it's safe.
Brother, any other advice, insights, predictions for franchisors out there of the coming months?
Well, I'll tell you, if I were, and we've all been participating on webinars with our franchise family, the other folks that are out there in the industry. One of the things that I've been proclaiming really and touting to my fellow franchise professionals is that this is a time when the franchisor's interests have to absolutely take a backseat to the interests of the franchisee. And we're very fortunate because our owner came out of the franchise industry. Before he bought this whole company, he was a franchisee of Budget Rent-A-Car for years. Then he was a franchisee of Dunkin', and then of course of Envirologik. So he absolutely keeps us focused on the success and the happiness of our franchisees. But all franchisors must absolutely put their profitability and their best interests on the back burner, and they've got to concentrate on keeping those franchisees above water, keeping them positive, keeping them in communication and very, very engaged. So that's absolutely my biggest advice to franchisors. And to franchisees, you know what? Your franchisor is going to do what they have to do to help you and keep you sane and successful. Lean on the other franchisees in your network. Those folks are doing the same thing you are. All the oars are pulling in the same direction. And if you need to, reach out to folks like Red, folks like me, all the other franchise professionals who will absolutely talk you down off the ledge and help you stay positive.
Buddy, this is such a great industry. It's so transparent. I mean, it's not only giving of folks like yourself that are giving and this franchising stronger together kind of idea, but if you're selfish, if you're a franchisor that's in it for you, the industry weeds you out. The transparency, the validation requirements that a candidate can go through. If you're not taking care of franchisees, siesta, baby. Hasta la vista, baby. Siesta, baby. Yeah.
Automatic light.
Nice. The light show here. I'll turn on my disco ball later. Um, so yeah, I just love this industry, and I love folks like you that that are willing to give back selflessly. I mean, it was so fun serving with you in Miami. What do we
Yep.
paint some fences together?
Yeah,
At
yep.
the
Franchise and give back. Yeah.
Amen. So where am I going to see you next?
Let's see. Well, I'm going to be down for the retreat. Obviously, that's not till November. Hopefully, I'll see you long before
October.
then.
Yes, October 5 through 7. You got
There
it.
you go. That's my birthday, by the way. So there'll be drinks will be on you.
What day? 5?
Yep.
October 5.
October
Wow.
5.
The after party. Normally it's sponsored by Entrepreneur Magazine. We'll have to have the Ron Bender after party, or the after party. Yes.
Perfect. I love it.
So hopefully see you at Franchise Expo West, perhaps, and earlier in September, multi-unit springboard. Lots coming up.
Yep.
Let's pray. Say our prayers, they don't cancel. All right, I'm going long, diverting the topics here. Thank you again, Ron, for sharing. Franchise Leaders Respond with Red Boswell and our friend Ron Bender. Thank you.
Thanks again, Red.
Pleasure.